Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Derek Long from Quest Trust Company. Most of you guys know me as one of the IRA specialists. I get the privilege of traveling across the country and giving a lot of unique speeches that deal in all sorts of topics, from how to use your IRA for oil and gas and multifamily and buying notes and selling notes and properties, fix and flips, rentals, etc. But today we have a very unique topic that I think is one of the most underutilized topics out there. And so I really was excited to bring on a very special guest in that area. Before we get started, we do have a couple of moderators. So please, while we're going through this, put your questions in the chat box. They'll pop up right on the screen, so that way everyone can see them. If you don't want people to see them, just still put them in there. Just maybe put a little hashtag or something, and I won't pop it up and ask our up-and-coming speaker. In addition, we're going to have some room for Q&A right at the very end of this. We really, really will. And then lastly, I want to remind everyone that coming up, if you're local to Houston in July, we have a really big networking event coming out this way. And then in Dallas, right, in August, we're going to be having a big multifamily summit type event because we know the market has shifted in both ways. So without any further ado, I do see we've still got a couple of more people logging in. I see about 15 of you on YouTube and about another 25 of you on StreamYard. So thank you, everybody. In total, we got about 50 people coming on. So with that being said, I wanted to talk a minute just about what our speaker's background was, right? And it's because a lot of times we bring in people that are obviously they have investments outside that they deal with, And so bringing someone in from the mortgage industry and the notes industry, I think is always very important, especially with the rising interest rates and how much it has changed from 2020, right, to 2022 and then 22 to 2023 as the market has drastically shifted. With that being said, he's going to be talking a lot today, actually really just how to build a financial statement. So with that being said, I'm bringing on Martin Saenz, right?
Correct. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah. So Martin, I'm here in the background. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to turn the floor over to you. And then if there is any questions, I may just stop you and bring them on up. For those of you listening, leverage the chat box and ask us questions as we go through these things. So Martin, the floor is yours.
I appreciate that, Derek. And you and I met a year or two ago, and I've always appreciated the relationship. I switched over my account from another custodian to Quest late last year, and it's been phenomenal. I had horrendous service where I was at before, and I just got tired of sitting on hold for 2 hours every time you had to call and get a question answered. So I appreciate all you guys, and I just want to kind of kick it off saying that. And I'm sure the people listening here feel the same way as well. So with that said, myself, Martin Saenz, I've been an entrepreneur for the past 20 years. My wife and I founded a government contracting company. So we sold to the bureaucrats for a number of years, which really equipped us to do anything in life. And, from 2009 on till today, started buying commercial and residential real estate. So I have a landlording background. In 2013, I started buying mortgage loans to create monthly passive income in my life. And the heart of myself, the roots are really educationally based. I've written 5 books, and 3 of which are on mortgage investing, and one on government contracting, and one just on cash flow investing. So I just love the topic of financial literacy and just education in general, because I believe it kind of separates, it allows us to take control back in our life. The topic today is one I'm very passionate about. My wife and I have maintained what we call a living financial statement for the past 15 years or so. And it has helped us immensely. And I wanted to cover what that means today, because I really believe that it is the foundational block by which every investor should build off of. I believe it's step 1 before anything else is done. And actually, it's repeated steps, because it's something you maintain, which hence the word living in living financial statement. So I want to cover it in full. I can send anyone a free copy if they like after the webinar here. And so let's get into it. If we could share my screen, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. And so to kind of kick things off, I want to say that just the fact that we're discussing this, maintaining a living financial statement. Most people use or put together a financial statement when they apply for a mortgage or they're looking to get some type of debt, and that's the time they do it, and they dread doing it, and they don't do it any other time in between those periods of time. But what I'm going to argue is that this is something that every professional investor should be doing initially, and then keeping up to date on a weekly basis, because this will help drive performance and really serve as your report card to give you feedback in terms of how you're progressing as you're working towards your goals. And it's tied in. The other thing is this is very futuristic because you're setting it up on a present tense time frame. However, it is helping draw you into the future towards the goals you're looking to achieve. And so with that said, I just want to kind of say, preface before I even start kicking it off here, is that you should do this with an accountability partner, or if you have a coach that you work with, or a spouse, a loved one, your dog, I don't know, someone. But there should be some other person that is holding you, your feet to the fire in terms of making sure that you do this on an ongoing basis, because that's how important it is. And for anyone here that runs a business, you kind of understand what I'm saying, because you're putting together an operations budget. You're managing towards that. You're doing financial reviews probably monthly, just to see how on target you are with the budget and what types of adjustments you make. So you're really kind of working as a business owner. And again, the heart of this is that taking control back over your financial freedom is what this is about. Now, the choice is always yours. If you don't take control over your financial freedom and do things like this living financial statement, you will give control to someone else to do that for you, i.e. Wall Street. So some type of brokerage firm or what have you. But I believe strongly that it is more to your advantage and your family's benefit for you to take ownership over this endeavor yourself, if you will. So it all starts first with, what is your why? And if you're doing this with a spouse or a loved one, assume of course your spouse should be your loved one, but anyway, you want to get their involvement in terms of what is the driving force for you to make this happen for yourself with a living financial statement. And so this why should be compelling enough that it's going to pull you in towards your passions, what's important for you, better financial freedom or future for your children, better retirement outlook for you and your spouse, and so forth, whatever that is. And it's interesting because I was talking to someone who is a 100+ millionaire, and we were talking about our whys the other day, and he said, my why is to solve world hunger. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's just fantastic. And so, the bigger the why, the bigger the draw in. Now, it all starts with looking at your income, because I believe that the heart of your financial statement, as you'll see as we kind of go through this, is how much monthly passive income you're generating, because that's going to be the blood that's going to flow to the rest of your financial body, if you will. And so you want to divide out what you're earning monthly from your active income versus what you're earning monthly from your passive income. So active income is obviously like your W-2, anything that you're putting effort forth to generate. And if you stop putting effort, then money will stop being generated. Now, passive income is different. That's going to be something that you may initially put forth energy from a due diligence standpoint, from a research standpoint, to source and vet the opportunity that's going to produce passive income. But once you lock in and you acquire that asset or you invest with that operator or so forth, it should produce income in a consistent and predictable manner with very little effort from your side. So this is different with, I know a lot of people think just real estate investing in general is passive. And anybody who's landlorded knows especially if you self-manage the property, you're still active. You're taking tenant calls, you're doing tenant screenings, you're you're repositioning the properties when there's tenant turnover, you're ongoing maintenance and so forth, record keeping, and so there is an active element. So I would just look at opportunities that produce pure passive income, because at what we're looking for is this increase in passive income over time. So as you get older, you're going to have less energy and perhaps less passion to earn active income. And so you need your passive income to go exceed your active income, so you maintain the quality of life that you're looking to maintain. And that's really the heart of the discussion here, is that you're doing this so that you can maintain your financial health in a consistent and predictable manner when your active income is no longer present, or you're not as dependent upon the active income. So that's what I'll say, like towards the passive income. Having the passive income goal is going to be very important. So these are all example numbers, they're arbitrary, just kind of made them up here. But let's say your monthly passive income goal is 100,000, and all your passive.
Can you zoom in just a little bit on the Excel
Yeah,
sheet?
sure. How is that?
That's perfect.
Okay, that's better. Okay, thank you for that, Derek.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to be understanding the percentage to the goal that you're at. So right now in this example, I'm 27% there to where I need from a passive income perspective. And then also what is the dollar amount that I need to achieve to hit what my goal is from a passive income perspective. Now, next is, and then we'll speak a little bit about acquiring assets that produce cash flow and liabilities associated with that a little bit later. But for now, I just want you to really understand the difference between active income and passive income, and the fact that even if your passive income is zero, you should still note that. And more than that, you should perhaps put in assets that you look to acquire, you hope to acquire as a goal for yourself, and then put zeros next to them, so that over time, as you're working towards hitting your goals and growing your monthly passive income, you can start plugging in numbers and building confidence through results. And so that's really what I mean by like a report card kind of setup here. Now, expenses, I break up into two separate expenses. And I look at the business expenses whereby I acquired liabilities to procure cash flowing assets. So those business expenses are going to be accounted for. They're going to the monthly passive income that is generated on the income statement should be covering those business expenses, so that you are positive cash flowing. So that's very important. Now, your living expenses are going to be everything not related to generating income. So these are just what you need to live: your food, utilities, credit cards, and so forth. And this is where you could, take a form like this and then customize it to your situation. And you can look at it from a budgetary standpoint to say, oh, well, where am I overspending? Where am I underspending? And really just kind of work towards obviously decreasing your living expenses, increase your business expenses, which obviously means that you're increasing your cash flowing assets and thus increasing monthly passive income. And at the end of the day, you're really looking at growing, making good decisions, and understanding each of those decisions where that line item hits. Does it hit a business expense? And if it does, what's the result of that business expense, and just kind of monitoring it on an ongoing basis. So let's go down to assets and liabilities here. So for assets, this is what I do, and obviously everyone here may have different buckets that they like to break the assets up in. I like to look at liquidity. So how much are in each of my bank accounts, or in your single bank account, or what have you, and what does it roll up to? And I like to know that I have that, safety net, that there's money in the bank in case an occurrence happens. And as well as I like to look at what are my cash flowing assets. So again, these are assets that you acquire either through taking on liabilities or not. But in every instance, to classify as a cash flowing asset, it has to produce monthly income that is consistent and predictable. And so that's kind of a prerequisite there. Now, we will get into store value, as well as I like to look at retirement accounts, because again, as I mentioned, kind of the blood that flows through your financial statement is our assets that produce cash flow. So if you can have, the more you can have of that, the more you'll have excess cash flow each month that can spill into you being able to invest further into retirement accounts, like what Quest offers, or store value accounts, which what I consider store value assets, like gold and silver and Bitcoin. And I don't even know if like Quest kind of offers you to be able to buy those commodity types into retirement accounts. That's kind of a whole separate kind of conversation. Now, I put on here book royalty. I think I mentioned I've written several books, and so I get book royalty every month. And so not every asset takes a lot of money to acquire. So there's sweat equity you can put into, you can produce training videos that you sell on Udemy, or you can sell training programs in person, or you can write books, and based on what So I just want to kind of say, not everything involves having to have money to purchase an asset that cash flows for you. So I just kind of want to mention that point. Now, I do want to say that you should have metrics, you should have goals and accountability around each of the asset categories for yourself. So you kind of break everything out into its own silos, so you're measuring it correctly. If you do this, then you will be very intimately engaged in terms of the financial performance for you. And the less you do this, the more that I believe you'll do things on emotion. So if you just kind of look at what's my net worth overall, oh, that feels good. Well, that may feel good, but what if you're in asset classes that are more store value and don't provide income for you now? Or what if you're not building your retirement accounts the way you need to build them, so that when you do hit the golden age, you'll have money there to live off of, as we saw kind of with the living expenses. And I just want to say, also too, in addition to accountability, I know it's kind of easy that, to kind of come over on here on the webinar and be like, buy cash flowing assets or invest in your IRA more, or buy store value assets. But because you're like, okay, well, how do I best do that? Because I know there's a lot of questions like, where do I even start when I want to start looking at assets before I even look at how to figure out what category they're in? Well, I would recommend, I've written on this topic and I've spoken on it, and I feel very passionate about 3 big risk factors when acquiring any asset. And that is, what the asset class is itself and your familiarity with that. And if you don't have a familiarity with it, then becoming a lifelong student. So in 2009, I decided to start buying commercial real estate, my wife and I. So I became a student as I was acquiring properties and learning how to be a landlord. But actually, about 3 years prior to acquiring our first property, I was just reading books on it. I was just learning everything I need to learn. And so through landlording, I actually learned how to become a mortgage note investor. So in 2013, started buying pools of mortgages that produce monthly income. And so everything kind of built off each other. And to give you an example on the other side, I invested time and money into a tech startup that sounded really good. It was all emotion driven. And I'm like, I'm going to make so much money, and this is it. This is the golden ticket. Well, I'm not an IT, I'm not a tech type person. And just that area, I don't know. It's just, I don't speak the language well. And so I ended up losing my time and money. So just kind of sticking to what your passion is. And then the more you understand the asset class, the more you're able to vet the operator that's going to be managing that asset class. If you're going into like a private placement or a REIT or something like that. So there's going to be an operator. And at the end of the day, the last thing is like the rate of return risk is the rate of return going to be in line with what your needs are from a return perspective to meet the goals that you have for yourself. So the rate of return should be the very last thing you look at after you fully understand the assets in the portfolio and the operator who's managing that. But that's just kind of a brief 2 cents on when you're kind of starting to look at assets to acquire or generate, like we talked about, writing a book or what have you. Now, the liabilities is you really, as a rule of thumb, I think a lot of folks here read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he talks about doodads and acquiring things that don't have that don't hold their value, and they actually drain you of your resources and time. And so you really should be looking at acquiring liabilities that will produce or allow you to acquire assets that generate monthly passive income. Because the more you can do that, the more that you can achieve that objective and grow this goal here for yourself. Closer you get to 100,000 a month, the more that you're able to feed all your little babies here. So I guess babies, or I'm thinking like birds and little bird chicks or what have you. But you're able to feed all the different asset classes and buckets, and everything will become healthy as a result. And not just that, it's not just that it'll be healthy, it'll be that you are understanding how it's healthy, and that you have been monitoring the progress of health as you're getting stronger and stronger, reaching your goal. So in conclusion, I just want to say that, I believe this is what I've seen in my life, that everybody should take back control over their financial freedom, over their financial future. There are a lot of people that are willing to do it for you, and there's a lot of salespeople that are really fee based and they don't have your best interest in mind. And not just that, they don't invest in the same things they're telling you to invest in. So at the end of the day, it's really up to you to start looking to build your financial strength off of starting with this financial statement, building your monthly passive income that is both consistent and predictable. That's the important thing. So it's not buying a cash flowing asset that just cash flows for a year and then it's done, but something that is sustainable that you don't have to think about after the due diligence is done to acquire the asset. And that is the heart of your financial statement. And, you will grow, you will grow from that. And I believe that this is a recipe to live a better quality of life. And so that's kind of what I'll say to that. And I'll take any questions. And I hope this is helpful. And I can email this to anybody that wants a copy of this. It's in Excel format. And I think it's just important that people do this in general. Yes, Obina. Yes, I can do that. I don't know what the best way is to.
You can just email it to me, and
Okay.
then what I'll do is at the end of this, we'll send out his spreadsheet to everyone out there that's listening. That way everyone has a contact, and then we'll put your contact information there as well, Martin, if that's okay with you, so they can reach out to you.
Absolutely, yes. I'll email it to you right after.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'll take any questions. Hold on a second.
Yeah, so this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing the screen right here and just have it be you and me for a minute. So I love the Excel spreadsheet side of things. The reason I really, really do like these is because it puts real numbers into something. The problem is a lot of times we have to take the time to make them. So I appreciate you sending all this out so people can leverage and utilize it. But when I was looking at your spreadsheet, I noticed like you had a lot of money invested in a lot of goals of where you wanted to invest. So what specific area are you looking to invest in you as an individual right now?
Yeah, so I like to stay true to my core, which is mortgage loans. So when I buy pools of mortgage loans, we look at residential owner-occupied mortgage loans in suburban markets. So these are fair market values of like 377,000 on average. They're in places where there's jobs. It's not too rural, not too urban. And so that's been a good market for us that we believe will withstand recessions and economic turns. So I like investing in that. Now, other than that, I like investing in commercial properties as well as some energy assets, oil and gas as well as another asset. But on the commercial side, we acquired a 62,000 square foot medical office building in Houston, Texas, last year. So we are in the Fallbrook area, if you're kind of familiar with that.
So I like the buying of like a group of notes and stuff like that. The thing is I've always been the originator of a note. I've actually never sold one of my notes or anything like that, but it's because they're always short term. Now, I know if I originate a note myself, I can kind of maybe get like 10%, 2 points or something along those lines. If I have extra capital, do you think it's better to for me to generate my own note or put it into maybe a fund or something like that of like a pool of notes? Because I know we kind of have the option of both, especially working with someone like yourself.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to you and what your bandwidth is, and what your passion is. I'll tell you, our company owns over 1,000 mortgage loans. And so that's a lot of fun, right? It's a lot of fun to see money coming in every day, blah, blah, blah. But the heart of me likes to go out physically and acquire a commercial property so I can see it, walk it, like even though that
What
would
is
be
your
less
heart desire?
profitable, it'll be less profitable. Yeah, like than the mortgage loans, or more work, rather, more work. So it really, I think there's an opportunity. I will say this. I think we're coming into an opportunity like '09 and 2010, where there's going to be a lot of older, aging out landlords that own their properties free and clear, that are willing to take a down payment and take an annuity play where they'll take a seller note and allow you to, pay them off in 15 years so they can get the recurring monthly income. And so I think there's an opportunity there to really dig your teeth into commercial real estate.
One of the things that I might have missed it because I did step up to get a cup of coffee because I love my coffee. But was when you go through the motions and you're trying to build wealth, is having to have some form of delayed gratification. And I think too many times in this world, in this industry, I need it now, I want it now, and everything can be financed. I mean, I was at the store the other day to buy a bed, and they would finance your bed for you. Like, you could save a couple $1,000 for a bed. Like, we don't need to be financing these type of things. So when you were building your initial wealth and you're going through your spreadsheet, was there certain things and certain items that you delayed your gratification on to allow you then to get to the level you're at now?
Yes, it was. I bought, my wife and I bought our first property in '09, but we actually started taking real estate investing workshops in '05. And so what we learned from going to real estate investing workshops is that the best thing you can do is build a sustainable cash flow in your own company before you go out and start buying real estate, so you'll have more bandwidth. And so we did that. We read books, we took workshops, everything we could do for a 4 or 5 year period. And then when we bought our first property, we actually bought our second property in an industrial building next to that first property 1 month later. And then we started buying more and more properties, and we were able to do that in a very healthy manner because we had built a foundation for ourselves of education. So I think that's really the first step, is for you, one, to educate themselves. And even though they might be a plumber and they understand the plumbing industry, they may not understand it more from a macro perspective. So they should read books on successful plumbing businesses, operators, right? Operators of successful businesses, so they can see like a higher level. And then from there, one's mind, if you start educating yourself, it will draw you into opportunities versus you just kind of emotionally gravitating towards things.
So I got a message from Kamea here. What percentage of your income would be a good starting amount to put towards either investments, like a 20-80 or 90-10 or something along those lines?
So I look at it very differently.
Good question, Kamea.
That is a great question. That is a great question. To me, and I failed to mention this, I only invest in assets with passive income. So that's a rule of thumb. I do not touch my active income, like income that my company, the salary I take, blah, blah, blah. That goes into an account where I live off of my family. But so I only buy gold. I only invest in my IRA. I only buy additional assets with monthly passive income. So that way it takes the emotion out of it. So if that asset goes to zero, that's fine. I'll live because my monthly passive income is still moving on into the future. But the moment you start spending your active income is the moment you start getting pissed off when that asset's not performing like you want it to perform, because you worked so hard to put that money in to do what you did.
With that being said, I know that you became a client of ours after our last expo, and you and I met there, and we're going through some of those motions on that standpoint, and just moving your accounts over and things like that. Is there some investments that you like to do in a self-directed IRA that you don't like to do outside of an IRA, and vice versa?
Yes, and actually, it's funny you asked that, because actually I see it from both sides. I see it as an IRA investor, and I see it as about 40% of our investors that subscribe to our fund are actually IRA holders. So they're investing with qualified funds, and so what I believe is important to us, because it's important to me as well as a lot of these people I talk to. They want to invest in sure things with their IRA money, because they're not messing around with what they know they need to live off of in their later years. So they want to know that they're going to get a solid, fair return, but they're not doing anything too risky that will jeopardize, their financial future.
You, I love the way you're describing that, because a lot of times when there's investments I personally own outside of my IRA. Prime example is I own some rentals, but they don't make me a whole lot of passive income, to be honest. But the houses appreciate in value. They're all debt leveraged, so the tenants are really paying down the loan. I do get a little money from them, but I get a lot of tax deductions from it. Inside my IRA, I actually own a lot of notes, and I also own some of those mineral rights / oil and gas investments, because they are passive and I'm not have to deal with them on a daily basis. And since it is passive income, it works out really, really well. So with that being said, I want to know, Martin, are you going to be coming to any of our events that we're going to be hosting in Dallas or Houston up and coming?
Yeah, I'd like to come to the Houston one, because I have some investor partners that I have actually been going to Houston about every other month. So I want to look at this one here coming up in July, and this will allow me to do a twofer. And I also like to attend NAPE, the energy conference. I believe is in November.
Dude, we went to NAPE for the first time. The last time they hosted it,
Yeah.
amazing event. I couldn't do the giveaways alone too, which was great. There were people giving away Broncos.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what?
There's such an opportunity in the energy space, because the banks and private equity companies, they're just they're not interested. It's just not a fit for them politically or what have you. And so there's just such a good opportunity if you really can learn that industry. You have to learn it, because there's also another element, a middleman element that you have to just really be conscious of.
So I wanted to take a minute and just talk about this event I have up here on the screen. So Quest in Houston on July 11th, we're going to be doing a big networking event. And the real purpose, and then we're calling it a luau just to have some fun, but it's going to be open bar, food, drinks, all on Quest. We're going to have a lot of sponsors and vendors there and things like that. It's a completely free event, 100%. And not only that, the way we're designing it is, as people attend and show up, it's going to show like, hey, I'm a lender, I'm a borrower, I'm a buyer, I'm a contractor, and you're going to have a specific color name badge that kind of labels that aspect. So it's easy for you guys to network and figure out who you need. So I'd love to have you there. I'd love to have your team there, Martin, just so that way, maybe we can do some other introductions and go through those processes. With that being said, I did also some other Google research. I found your book.
Which one?
I found one of your books you had, and for $15, this is actually a really good book on just note investing in general and finding a good mentor. So I highly encourage people to check this out, because I think too many times what ends up happening is we're not so sure on which books to read or where to go. And for $15, I think that's well worth it. Well, I thought I was sharing the right screen for that. So maybe.
Oh, that's all right. I think it's that's probably the most educational thing you can do is write a book. I mean, it's just it really helps you dig deep inside of your own head and really just kind of learn and self-reflect and share what you know with other people. I think that's how we all grow and better ourselves.
Absolutely. So I put a link up there on the screen, guys, for everyone if you want to check out his book. I think for $15, we blow $15 on Starbucks. You know what I'm saying? Well worth it to check it out and go kind of through those motions. As we kind of come to a close, Martin, is there any last minute things that you want to maybe tell people or say just to maybe get the ball rolling and how to get started? I know we're going to send out your spreadsheet to everybody. And so just give maybe that final piece of advice.
Yes, it all comes down to control. So either you're going to control your own financial future, or someone else is going to control it for you. It's just there's no way to shortcut that. It's a law of nature, and who if you don't control it, who typically ends up controlling it is going to be the shiniest salesman that comes to you, and that might not be the best person for you.
Kamei, I think, said it's self-discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline yourself. I love it. I love it. Well, Martin, don't go anywhere. We're going to end the broadcast here in just a minute. And everyone, make sure you send our marketing team an email if you want to grab those slides real quick. And then we can go ahead and make introductions over to Martin as well. Or we'll just put his contact information right in there. So that way you guys can not only get the spreadsheets, you can rewatch this class if you'd like. And just let us know how you can help. Check out his book and sign up for one of our Houston socials, the Luau, or we have a big multifamily summit coming up in Dallas. So with that being said, guys, thanks so much for joining us on Self-Directed Saturday. We'll see you soon. Martin, don't go anywhere.
Thank you.